everybody to New Heart, New World. I'm Rasika Manjari and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's topic is on the strength of the strong. World history is replete with stories of heroes and villains. The world's greatest epics of mythology, history and fiction all feature a heroic figure of some description or another. Even modern day film and literature all revolve around a heroic figure. So it seems we can't have a story without a hero. I mean, what is a story without a hero or shero? Why is this? Well, Joseph Campbell, an American psychologist of the 20th century, wrote a work called A Hero with 1,000 Faces. And this work actually resulted in the concept of the hero's journey. And this pertains to the way that we are all heroes in our lives, each one of us. So many modern epics have actually credited Joseph Campbell for the character development of their heroic figures in their great works. So the fact is that these stories and histories featuring heroic figures captivate us so deeply because we deeply resonate with and identify with those heroic figures and characters. Because ultimately we also are, in a way, enacting our own heroic journey in our own lives. So as Joseph Campbell outlined, there are common themes that apply to all of us as we navigate our life journey. And this is also, well, we can also refer to it as our hero's journey, because in this context, that is what it is, a hero's journey. So these common themes consist of a call to action, a starting point, challenges, triumphs, and then ultimately the sharing of the wisdom gained along the way. So we can have many such simultaneous hero's journeys spiraling throughout our lives at any one time, which reveals our complexity and the many aspects of ourselves. So we are all heroes, little or big, and the mark of a hero is overcoming challenges. It's fighting those demons, it's slaying those dragons. Because ultimately, as our own heroes, we all have our own internal scary monsters. And some of them are big and scary, and some of them are smaller and still scary. However, we remain with the challenge of actually overcoming these demons because they affect us inevitably in a negative way at different levels and at different intensities, depending on the size of the scary monster or demon. So in these stories and histories of old and also in modern epics, we find that the hero, the focus of the heroic journey, ultimately goes through a deep internal process. And this internal process then manifests positively in an external way. So every hero needs strength, which is derived from this inner process and the knowledge and practice that actually feeds or stimulates that inner process, because ultimately this process alters the consciousness and affects our internal experience. So when I say every hero needs strength, that includes us, because don't forget, we are all our own heroes, according to Joseph Campbell with his hero's journey. So if we think about the example, I mean, you may have seen various martial arts demonstrations where an unlikely candidate, for example, a not so strong or well-built person, male or female, somehow manages to succeed to break a plank of solid wood with their own bare hands with a single chop. Now, you may have seen that demonstration in your own life at some point or another. And this actually is a reflection of the inner resolve, the inner victory that is had before any external battle is actually encountered. So if we don't have this kind of inner resolve or inner strength or inner process that we develop and cultivate, then ultimately we can get stuck in repeating patterns in our life again and again. And we keep facing challenges that seem to consistently defeat us. And we seem to have familiar monsters and demons and dragons that rear their familiar faces every time, and we just can't seem to overcome them or slay them for good. So we may say, yes, we want knowledge and we want inner strength, but how and from where? So this is where we can draw from the unlimited reserves of the Bhakti Yoga teachings and philosophy. This tradition offers the theory and the practice that actually fuels our inner strength and allows us to overcome our own internal difficulties and challenges, and which then allows us to, with our newfound resilience, overcome really any obstacle that we may face externally, because ultimately the battle is already won. The victory has been had before the battle has even begun. So through the teachings of the Bhakti Yoga philosophy, infinite wisdom is poured out onto the pages of its texts because it lovingly shows us the way through story and example. And as an example, we encounter stories in the key texts of the Bhakti Yoga tradition whereby Krishna, or God, who has his pastimes in great detail and excitement and adventure in these texts, basically his own family, his own very dear friends and companions and family suffer the greatest tribulations ever known to man. And in fact, their trauma and difficulties were so vast and overwhelming that our difficulties pale in comparison. So these associates of the Lord, of God, of Krishna, they, even in his presence, actually encountered great disturbance and disruption in their lives. However, they were not overcome. They remained victorious because they had the knowledge and the understanding that their connection to Krishna trumped everything else, and that gave them the internal strength and resolve to emerge triumphant and victorious over everything that came in their way. And ultimately, they ended up ruling the universe. So in this way, the Bhakti Yoga teachings are really love, disguised as philosophy. And the Maha Mantra is a mantra that is part of the Bhakti Yoga teachings, and it is the ultimate expression of this love because it connects us to the reservoir of that universal strength that we know as Krishna or God, or he has infinite other names. So when we choose to lead our lives on principles of love and spiritual intelligence, then naturally we receive reciprocation. The untold positive experiences that are had through the chanting of the Maha Mantra that ensue after engagement with this on a daily basis in a very focused and attentive manner basically gives us unshakable inner strength and that fortitude that comes only when we understand that we go far beyond what we see in the mirror, that we are actually spiritual in nature, and that when we connect with the source of our spiritual identity, which is ultimately defined, or we are ultimately defined as love. When our spiritual identities, defined as love, connect to the source of all love, that is when our strength knows no bounds. And in this process, with the chanting of the Maha Mantra, our consciousness elevates. So let's chant the Maha Mantra together now. And many of you are already familiar with it, as we've chanted it very often in previous videos. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the penetrating wealth of philosophy that reveals this Maha Mantra to us sheds even more light on how we can be triumphant and victorious in our own lives through our own personal inner strength and fortitude. So after all, knowledge is power, and that doesn't mean world dominion. It only means dominion over ourselves, which is the ultimate form of power and exertion of the control that is required to enable us to reach the spiritual heights that we are destined to achieve. So in this way, when we develop the inner strength and the fortitude, and we develop mastery and control over ourselves, then that is when we understand who we truly are as spiritual beings, and we develop the strength that is the stuff of real heroes. So if you'd like to find out more about the Maha Mantra or Bhakti Yoga, then please visit my website at newheart-newworld.com. And of course, please stay tuned for many more videos on the secrets and not so secrets of Bhakti Yoga. So until then, I wish you all well. Bye for now.